Hi, everybody. Andrew Champagne alongside JD Fox for this week's edition of Champagne and JD. First of all, we had a really good time recording last week's live edition of Champagne and JD. Hopefully, you enjoyed that as much as we did. Gives us a lot of options moving forward. However, as you can see down there on the bottom of the screen, and as you can see because we're on YouTube earlier in the week, we're back to our usual schedule this week. JD, hope all is well with you. And I would like to wish you sort of a happy anniversary because, as you pointed out, this is episode 52 of Champagne and JD. Now, we have missed a couple of weeks, but I guess this sort of marks a year, so it's kind of sort of significant. I mean, I didn't get you anything. I'm sorry. I guess I probably should have.
I got you a Coke Zero.
All right, yeah. I got a caffeine-free Diet Coke here. I got to go easy on the caffeine for the sake of my blood pressure. But at any rate, JD, here's to you. Happy kind of sort of anniversary on episode 52 of Champagne and JD.
Yeah, and I've done a terrible job with the numbering scheme. We had 1 week where we did 2 episodes, and I counted them each as episodes, and then we have a episode that I called 0.5 later on.
That was a best stuff. That doesn't count.
Okay. So, yeah, numbering scheme aside, yeah, we've been doing this for over a year. And if you have enjoyed it at any point, even if you're watching and no longer enjoying it, we appreciate that you're watching.
Yes, even if you're watching it and you're going to secretly burn us with your burner Twitters, you know what? We don't care. A view is a view is a view. And also, we enjoy attention very, very much. Other things that we enjoy: the road to the Kentucky Derby, which will kick off this week's edition. We will go into the Saturday program on Gold Rush Weekend at Golden Gate Fields. Great card coming up there and a great late pick 4 sequence on Saturday that we're both looking to go through. But before we do that, the last serious works are sort of upon us as far as Kentucky Derby horses are concerned. A lot of head-turning morning drills at Churchill Downs, and this is one of those times where, as our buddy Darren Zocali likes to say, everyone suddenly becomes a workout expert after not watching a single workout for the rest of the year. It's funny, but it's true. And as a result of some of those works and some of the buzz that you hear around Derby time, you're going to get some wise guy horses. Now, for my money, the most notable wise guy horse of the last couple of years was My Boy Jack, who was 20-1 on the morning line based on his credentials, opened at 5-1 as the second choice, and for the most part stayed there. There are going to be horses that take absurd amounts of money given their credentials. And JD, personally, more often than not, at least for me, those horses are throwouts. Once you bet one of them, you'll learn your lesson and it becomes a never again sort of situation, says the guy who bet against California Chrome back in 2014, loved Intense Holiday based on the works, and I crashed hard.
Yeah, I obviously have had mixed success in the Derby recently, and I think everybody's expecting me to just pick Bourbonic because now on social media I'm just known as the Bourbonic guy.
There are worse things to be known as.
True. I hope the horse has a great career, comes back and runs at age 4. Has a great stud career, does everything the connections want. In terms of the works, I mean, it was really weird to watch Derby workouts, important workouts over, I mean, not just muddy ground, but like slightly frozen, slushy ground. It was very interesting to see early in the week. And obviously we're going to clear out and actually, as crazy as it sounds, I think by Sunday of this week, I think they're looking at the 80s, but there is some chances. If you look at extended forecasts, there's some chances for some showers, and some people are expecting it because it's the Kentucky Derby and they're looking at their mutters. But when we talk about wise guy horses, these could be angles and lots of angles. And I'm going to give you a horse that is not the number one wise guy horse. I think everybody has that horse, but I'm going to give you 2 angles on Mandaloun that may make sense to some people. They don't necessarily make sense to me. There's some valid reasons to like this horse, obviously coming off the win in the Risen Star, but very disappointing Louisiana Derby. Not a horse I'm personally going to be backing, but there's 2 weird kind of angles here that people look at. And one of them is the off-on angle where the horse, finished first allowance optional claimer, didn't run well in the Lecomte, came back, won the Risen Star, and then suffered in the Derby. So if you look at that on-off pattern, then you are expecting an on race next time. That is an angle that people legitimately use. I don't know if I'll ever understand it, but it is an angle. Another angle out there, and we didn't talk about this in our extensive pre-show production meeting, but it's one of my favorites, and I wanted to point it to you. The Risen Star was held under the lights. The Kentucky Derby is kind of in that twilight zone, especially if it's overcast. And this horse ran the best race. Horse ran its best race under the lights. Yeah, no, yeah. I realize because you're an old soul. But
and also because Rod Serling taught at my alma mater. Shout out at the college, go Bombers. Continue.
I mean, honestly, you look at that kind of late twilight dusk, like if they have to turn the lights on condition, that's where Mandaloun has run his best race.
Mm-hmm. Now, as Derby angles go, I've heard far worse. I mean, see also the My Boy Jack angle. Oh, I know a guy named Jack. I'm going to bet him, said everybody. Now, for me, wise guy horses are ones that just take way too much money. And I think there are times where that's far more of a negative than a positive. I don't particularly like the wise guy horse connotation because a lot of times the wise guys aren't wise. And in my opinion, they're landing on Obesos. I don't like Obesos. What has Obesos done in the afternoons / evenings? This is a horse that picked up some minor awards at Louisiana tracks in that road to the Kentucky Derby going that route. Is going to need to improve significantly in order to beat the likes of Essential Quality. For me, that's a horse that's going to probably be either 20 to 1 or 30 to 1 on the morning line, and it's going to get hammered down probably into the teens. And for me, that's an underlay. I'm going to need at least double the price for me to consider Obesos on my tickets. And even so, I don't think he is a win candidate. So for me, Obesos, I am kissing that one goodbye. I don't know much Spanish, but I know that one. So you mentioned you had 2 wise guy horses, JD, did you?
No, I had two angles related to Mandaloun.
Now,
the one thing I will say about Obesos is, I mean, how far back is Obesos going to be from the pace? 20 lengths, 22 lengths, something crazy like that? I mean, this horse is going to have to cover a country mile.
Is Calvin Burrell riding?
No.
Had to ask because that's the Burrell trip. Now, the one other horse that I'm going to throw out there as why can't this horse hit the board? King Fury came in off of a very long layoff in the Lexington. And I understand the Lexington was not a good race. Thoroughly understand that. King Fury had every reason to need a race, and he jogged. This is a horse that has at least run reasonably well in the past, including at Churchill Downs. I think King Fury, if all breaks well, if he moves forward, second start off a layoff, for a trainer whose horses coming off the bench sometimes need a race to get going, Ken McPeek can be a very patient horseman. King Fury may be not good enough to win, but if you're looking for that type of bomb in the exotics to run second or third to blow up exactas and trifectas, I think you can do far worse than that one.
Yeah, no, I would agree, and that's a horse I'm seriously looking at.
We're agreeing on a bomb? Oh, no.
It's a horse I like. I'm sorry.
We're going to be agreeing a lot in this late pick 4 at Golden Gate Field, so if you think...
We may need to have a seance or something.
I was going to say, we need somebody to come in and exercise the demons. What's Miss Cleo doing nowadays? Or anybody that has a late night infomercial? Maybe we call them up and see what they can do, get a Ouija board, something. But regardless, the Kentucky Derby Trail, hot as ever. We're going to be doing a lot of really cool stuff leading up to this year's Run for the Roses. I'm going to be doing a lot of writing on andrewschampagne.com. Haven't done a lot of writing for my site lately. I've kind of had, real world situations going on to where a lot of the stuff that I've done sort of fell by the wayside. But I am going to be previewing Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of Kentucky Derby week on my site. That's all going to be written up. And we are going to be doing our second annual Derby Show preview. Now, this is going to be a really cool format, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the show. That's called foreshadowing, kids. However, we're going to dive into the handicapping section of the program now, and we're going to talk about the late pick 4 on Saturday at Golden Gate Fields. First of all, shout out to our friends at Golden Gate. This is Gold Rush weekend for them. It's their biggest weekend of the season, and they have put together some tremendous cards all week long. The Saturday card, a 12-race program, the final 6 races of the day, all stakes races, most of them with very big fields. Shout out to the racing office for doing a heck of a job there. And on Saturday and Sunday of this weekend, you can see down there on the bottom, they're guaranteeing $200,000 in that late pick 4 pool. You know what that means? We got to dive in. This is a sequence that I think can go a lot of different ways. I think a lot of morning line favorites are very vulnerable. There's one instance where I think the morning line is just wrong, and we'll get to that. But I think this is the kind of pick 4 where you can play a ticket that uses some horses that are going to get bet, but that's still going to pay well given the size of the pool and given the size of the fields. This is a good handicapping sequence, JD. I'm pretty excited for it.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a $200,000 guarantee on the late pick 4, part of an all stakes pick 6. Obviously, you have all of your golden hour wagers as well. If you want to tie in Santa Anita, there's lots of ways to get involved on this card, but we're going to be focusing on the late pick 4, which is going to kick off in race number 9, which is the feature of the afternoon, the San Francisco Mile. We have 7 males and 1 female, field of 8 here, with the morning line favorite being a very, very suspicious line, 3-1 on Whisper Not. Obviously, Keeper of the Stars, the lone mare in the field, 6-1 morning line. Expect that to go way, way down.
Yeah, Keeper of the Stars is a grade 1 winner who came back a winner when she had every right to need a race after having not run since August of last year. Remember, she won the Gamely last year at Santa Anita. Shout out to Jonathan Wong, who joined us on this program after that race. We're obviously rooting for him. We think Keeper of the Stars is a very, very good mare. And in fact, we're both using that horse. I, in particular, went too deep. Look, Keeper of the Stars is 6-1 on the morning line. She might be half that. I understand that morning line makers have a very difficult job, but I'm curious to see what went on there because Keeper of the Stars, based on her past credentials, I would not be surprised if she goes favored. I certainly don't think she'll be any worse than the second choice in this field. Now, she is my top selection, especially second off of that layoff, and she's been working really well coming into this particular race. She bounced out of that April 3rd effort, by all indications, very well. Went 5 furlongs in 59-4 over the synthetic surface at Golden Gate. That's flying. The second fastest of 70 works at the distance. I think she is absolutely the one to beat. Now, the other insight that I have in here is there's a lot of early speed signed on, and they're going to be flying early. I think that benefits a couple of closers. And for me, the best closing type in this race is the 10-year-old last out winner at Turf Paradise, OHIO. Horse number 5 in your program, 6-1 on the morning line, and we may actually get that price. I think that's a realistic 6-1. Michael McCarthy is having one heck of a meet at Golden Gate Fields. He hasn't run a lot of horses where the bay comes to play, but he has more winners than off-the-board finishes. He's 6 for 14 with 2 seconds and 5/3. JD, by my math, 13 of 14 in the money. So that tells you when he ships up north, he's not shipping for frequent flyer miles or to go to Fisherman's Wharf. He's running to win. And I think Ohio has a big, big shot in here. He's got some back class, obviously a grade 1 winner winning the Kilroe Mile back in 2019. For me, I'm going too deep using horses 2 and 5. If I was going to throw another one in, it would probably be the 6 Border Town. But that horse just finds trouble, and I don't think that horse has beaten much in the times that it has gotten to the winner's circle. Been campaigned very smartly in the optional claiming ranks by Richard Mandela, but got to tell you, in this particular sequence, I think you only need 2 in here. 2-5 for me, and you use both of those horses, JD.
Yeah, really, I think Keeper of the Stars is obviously the class of the field, and to me, the race going back from last year is the Buena Vista. Beating Jolie Olympica. And obviously I think the world of that horse.
Yeah.
So that's an impressive win. Obviously the Gamely was an impressive win, but beating Jolie Olympica on the square, That's one of the best things you can possibly have on the resume, and the best speed figure that this horse has ever ran. So expecting a lot here. And the one additional horse I threw on here is Kiwi's Dream. Very honest horse. Again, usually on the front end. The one thing I want to point everybody out to is coming off of a 3-month layoff here. Last ran January 23rd, got beaten. My boy TJ Pereira on the front end thought he snuck away on that one. 2-1 favorite in a $47,000 starter allowance condition. But notice the work tab since. And this is where I'm a little curious here to see what Victor Trujillo is up to. As normally with Australian horses, you will see them work some longer distances. Not this horse in the career, but back-to-back 7 furlong drills, April 4th and April 11th. Obviously, you think condition, but those were also fairly quick for 7 furlong drills as well. Because normally when you're doing a 7 furlong conditioner, usually it's, you're running 4 furlongs hard and then you're coasting for the final 3. So 127 flat both times. They seem very pointed, and they could be pointed in one of two ways. They could be saying, hey, we want this horse to show its speed and it needed a little more condition underneath it, or they're making a change tactically and they're seeing if the horse can do something else as he ages here, going into age 6 for the gelding. Obviously, Ohio, a 10-year-old horse in this spot, one of the favorites coming off of a big stakes win at Turf Paradise. But Kiwi's Dream, very consistent, always in front, has only run from the back a few times, but all of those drills, just enough interesting there where I think I have to throw them on the ticket. So 1, 2, 5, 2 boys, and the lone mare in the field for me in race number 9.
And we've got common ground. This is a frightening sequence because in 3 of these 4 races, we are remarkably similar. And the one that we're not is going to be a pretty fun handicapping conversation. So we'll move on now to race number 10. And I thought this was a very tough race to handicap. This is the California Oaks, a $75,000 stakes race. 3-year-old fillies going 1 1/16 on the synthetic main track. Now, there are a couple of horses that are shipping up from Southern California, and they'll take some money. Number 7, Pizzazz, is the 3-1 morning line favorite. Number 11, Freedom Flyer, is 7-2. Of those 2, I prefer Pizzazz simply because I think you can toss the last out effort. It's obvious something went wrong on that occasion. Also, just going too short. Now, that does not mean that I think Pizzazz is a cinch. Far from it. I'm going 4 deep, and even though Pizzazz might be the favorite, I don't think it's going to be an overwhelming type of favoritism. I think maybe 5-2 at the lowest, and if I'm right there, it's a good betting race. It really is, and you're going to get a price on whichever horse you prefer. This is another race where I think there's a fair amount of early speed, and I think the horse that might be the speed of the speed draws the rail. That's number 1, Risen Lady, who has won 2 in a row for Michael McCarthy. There's that name again. Think he's going to have a big day on Saturday, and also gets Billy Anton-Georgian to ride. I have seen this movie a lot since moving up to Northern California a couple of years ago. When Billy Anton-Georgian gets left alone on the lead, he doesn't get run down much, and I think the game plan with Risen Lady is pretty simple. Go as fast as you can for as long as you can. Maybe Risen Lady's not necessarily good enough. She is getting a class test, but good last out buyer, last time out is 71 in beating optional claimers on the turf. 2 turns is absolutely not a problem. All 3 of this horse's wins have come going 2 turns. In fact, 3 for 3 going 2 turns, 0 for 4 going 1 turn. I think that tells you something. So Risen Lady is my top selection. I'll also use a couple others. I'll use number 5, I Declare, who has every right to move forward in career start number 3 for a good barn. And I'll throw in a price that's taking an aggressive jumping class. That's number 8, Miss Peaky Blinder, who beat I Declare in that one's debut. I think Miss Peaky Blinder is bred to run all day long. And if nothing else, the distance won't get that one beat, and she'll benefit from a pace meltdown because she's a plodding type that figures to be moving in the right direction late when some of the early speed starts to fade. 1, 5, 7, and 8 for me in race number 10. Good betting race. JD, I see you're 4 deep as well.
Yeah, I'm 4 deep, and I've got a little different tact here. And really, we've got a lot of speed signed on if you look at point of call if you see, okay, second, first, early on in the race. But these are horses that have not particularly been in fast races. I mean, you see some very dawdling quarter and half fractions here when you look at it. So on paper, if you take the times away from things, it looks like there's a lot of speed up front. Really, what I think we're going to see is we're going to see a packed bunch of racehorses. So I'm looking at this as I need to see who can pass horses and who has a closing kick. I think the 7, 9, and 11 are one pace horses. We've seen back with the Risen Lady a couple times when Risen Lady wasn't necessarily on the lead and passed a horse or two and really kicked home and won impressively. So I also have Risen Lady as my top selection here, but not on the front end. I don't think this horse is going to take the field coast to coast based on what I'm looking at. And I'm going, 5, 6, and 8 as well. I think Liam's Secret is a very interesting horse. Won the maiden first out for Trujillo again. I'm interested in a Trujillo horse second straight race. The allowance race that was then entered first time on the turf. That was the race that Risen Lady and Freedom Flyer are both coming out of, and didn't get a great start there. Was a little rank up the backstretch. It didn't make the TrackMan's comments, but if you watch the replay, it's there. Saved some ground, had a bit of a kick late, finished third in that race. I think second time out going a route of ground and getting 2 turns based on the pedigree. Liam's map out of a discreet cat mare Secret Kitten. I think this horse wants a lot of distance as well. So I'm very intrigued at the 12-1 morning line on the 6 Liam Secret. And then, similar with Miss Peaky Blinder, I think Miss Peaky Blinder is a must use in this spot. And I do think as you do, Ida Claire is very interesting coming off that maiden win, seeing if that horse can get the extra 16th of a mile. Mind you, that might be one of the slowest starts to a race we've seen at Golden Gate this year in terms of once you run adjusted fractions. This is one of the things I love on Timeform US based on conditions, adjusted fractions, and watching the tape. On that Ida Claire win, it was for a 1-turn mile at Golden Gate. It was 25 flat, but it was 25-18, so it was almost 25-1 for an opening quarter. That is crawling on that course.
Now, one question before we move on to race number 11. There's a horse in here that I thought was a wild card and that I would love very much, if not for the presence of the 1. What do we make of number 9 Empire House? I find Empire House fascinating. This horse sold for $500,000 back at Keeneland in 2019. And you can see why in the pedigree. By Empire Maker out of a mine shaft mare. Has shown sprinter speed, though. You look at the early fractions, this horse went 21 and change at Los Alamitos back in December. This horse can fly early. Catalino Martinez hops on. He's a speed rider. But my goodness, that last out effort, it's a little bit tough to forgive. And ultimately, I just think there's a little bit too much pace signed on. But if there's a scratch elsewhere in the sequence, maybe I throw Empire House in as a B because that one is likely to be a little bit of a price.
Yeah, it's one of those, like the last race, you either need to weigh on it as the first effort going a route of ground or you need to toss it. Now, mind you, is at Turf Paradise dirt course this year. We'll just put it nicely. It's an acquired taste for horses.
Quirky. Let's call it quirky. That's a good word.
And luckily that was March 12th when I think we could still call that a safe and fair race track, but still a quirky one at that point. We talk about a horse that had that much speed at Los Al, and then the TrackMan comment, no speed, because did not have a speed, was not really competitive in that race, wasn't a great field for a stake. I have a tough time figuring out how fast this horse actually is going a route of ground. Now, Jonathan Wong, obviously a friend of the show, great trainer, Tommy Town, they know what they're doing in placing this horse here. So it's an intriguing horse. I just want to see this horse over the synthetic surface one time. There's synthetic in the pedigree, but the pedigree just screams up and down sprint to me. But maybe I'm missing something. I'm not the best pedigree player. I'm not Ren Carruthers here. So I'm seeing speed on speed on speed, top down, sideways. But I could be wrong.
It's a really cool race, big field. We are both against number 11, Freedom Flyer. To me, this is an instance of a horse that has won once and just seems to like running second and third, outside post in a two-turn route race. Not necessarily a ton of route speed. That horse I didn't think had any excuse last time out here at Golden Gate when got beat despite tracking a very slow early pace. I prefer others, and I think Freedom Flyer is going to be a bit of an underlay as we move into race number 11. This is the Camilla Urso, 5 furlongs on turf. These are fillies and mares, and I got to tell you, JD, I think the race is as simple as deciding which Jonathan Wong trainee is going to win it. I think there's a couple of trainers that are in line for big Saturday afternoons. Michael McCarthy is one. Jonathan Wong is the other. My top selection is number 4, Sadie Bluegrass, a horse that I've touted on this show before. Not going to bring up what happened 3 starts ago. Okay, fine, I will. We gave out 3 pick 4 tickets that day. 2 of them hit. One of us didn't. So hopefully this is a time where JD can get to the windows and make some money. Sadie Bluegrass, though, kidding aside, classy filly. This is a horse that always seems to fire and has a lot of early speed. You look at the Timeform US early pace figures, they tell a 107 type story, but you see some of the fractions this horse has run. She's fast. Ricardo Gonzalez comes north to ride for the day, and I don't think he's coming in just to give Jonathan Wong, a favor. I think Sadie Bluegrass is incredibly live. I'm also going to use number 7, Dynasty of Her Own, though. I think Dynasty of Her Own is at her best over a synthetic surface. They took a couple of shots with her last year and earlier this year in some stakes races, and that's just a little bit beyond her scope at this point. She was 5th in the Iowa Oaks, was away for a while. They brought her back in the Kalukin Queen. She was 5th, beaten almost 10 lengths, but she came back to Golden Gate, has won 2 in a row. And if there's one thing I know, it's that when Jonathan Wong gets a horse on the right track, they tend to stay there. You'll look at the 34% win rate with last out winners. That tells you something. 4-7 for me in race number 11. In Jonathan Wong, I trust. You, however, are going not to a horse in the body of the field. You're going to an also eligible. Now, I agree. Number 13, 5 picks, please, has a shot if that one is able to draw in. That one needs 3 scratches, though, in order to do it. So, first of all, tell us a little bit about why you like 5 picks, please. And secondly, what are you going to do in the event 5 picks, please does not draw in?
5 picks, please. One of my absolute favorite sprint sires that goes really under the radar, Cinco Charlie. Coming off of a great performance, looked home in the grade 3 Sweet Life at Santa Anita. And, to me, if this horse can draw into the body of the field, I think this is the fastest horse in the field, will be drawn outside cross, has been running 6 furlongs, and I think still has that speed to be a front runner at 5, can clear this field and go. Broke the maiden at Mountaineer going 4.5, winning by 14.25. This horse has the ability to run a short route, 4.5, 5 furlongs, can do it well within this horse's grasp if she can draw into the field. If she cannot, I'm going to make it a $36 play, and I'll have your 4 Sadie Bluegrass, but I'll also be including the 2 Storming Lady. Now, the interesting thing to me here is you look at the last win or the last second place for 5 picks, please. Tyler Bayes aboard. Bayes has been in Southern California all year. Bayes listed as the rider on the 2 Storming Lady here, and coming up for this big Gold Rush day. Good to see Tyler back in kind of the home base of Golden Gate Fields. And this horse is a Southern California shipper as well, coming off of a pretty good effort off the bench, second. It was a 6.5 furlong allowance race with Jessica Pfeiffer aboard. Really, I think can sit right off the pace and go if needed. So if the 13 draws in the field, singling the 13. If not, I'm going 2-4 here, and we'll double the cost of my ticket.
One note before we move on. If this race was 6 furlongs, I would like number 8, Bohemian Bourbon, much, much, much more. This horse is a one-run closing type. I don't know why they've seen fit to put this horse on the lead in each of the last 2 starts against better horses. I think the level is right. I think the distance is just a little bit too short, and I think we're dealing with a horse that maybe has a case of second and third itis. We'll certainly appreciate the class drop for that red hot trainer, Mike McCarthy. Again, if it was 6 furlongs, I would love that horse. 5, though, just hits me as a little bit too short. As we move on to race number 12, a sprint race named for a freakishly fast horse. This is the Lost in the Fog. Older horses going 6 furlongs. And really, if you've never seen Lost in the Fog's races, go look them up on YouTube. That horse was a stone cold freak who wound up winning one of his final races with a very large cancerous tumor in his stomach that they did not find until a while later. It's a very sad end to a horse that was absolutely brilliant, and I do not like using that term, but in this instance, it absolutely fits. Now, it's a 6 furlong race. I am going against the likely favorite in here. I think if you're going to play this sequence, you need to take a couple of stands. And I don't like number 9, Landeskog, as much as the betting public likely will. This is a horse that has not been out of the barn since November, a horse that I think absolutely needs the lead in order to run well. And I don't think he's going to get it easy in here because there's a lot of speed drawn to his inside. I'm going 4 deep in here. My top selection is number 4, Better Trip Nick, a horse that absolutely loves Golden Gate Fields. 7 starts, 5 wins, 2 seconds. If you're playing a ticket and you're not using that horse, I got to question your thinking, because this is a horse that comes in off of a 90 buyer speed figure last time out. And for Golden Gate Fields, that's a big, big number. Quinn Howie is an excellent horseman whose horses often take big steps forward second off the bench per daily racing form, 30% with a 272 ROI. That's a horse that hits me as a must use. Couple other horses that will take some money. Number 6, Baja Sur, generally runs the same race every time out. Very consistent runner. Number 7, Any Port in a Storm, comes back to a synthetic surface. Judging by some of his past races over turf and synthetic, this is absolutely what he wants to do. And it's Peter Miller, a very high percentage barn. Another horse, though, that I felt the need to throw in the event the race completely falls apart, because there's a lot of early speed signed on, I needed to use number 5, El Chavo del Ocho. Now, 20-1 on the morning line. Don't get too excited. This is a Jonathan Wong trainee that has some back form that's very, very good. I don't think we're getting 20-1. Maybe we get 10-1. 8-1 hits me as far more likely, but you're going to get a little bit of a price on a horse that has run well here that should get the setup he wants. 4, 5, 6, 7 for me in race number 12 to finish off a $32 ticket going against Landeskog, who is a very fast horse. But there are a lot of very fast horses in here, JD, and I just didn't have a lot of trust in that one. I think this was a spot where I needed to go against a likely favorite.
Yeah, and really there's a lot of speed, and one of the horses that will likely be that speed, who I have, if you followed the show closely, I've always been a big Any Port in a Storm fan, and off the layoff here, didn't look great in the winter down south. At age 7, isn't the same horse that we once saw. Obviously, definitely the back class of this field, but I think they're going to get out and make sure they get on the lead. And I really think it's going to be a case where we're going to see Better Trip Nick or Landeskog tracking behind a horse, which we don't see them likely. If that's the scenario that sets up, I feel like I have to include those 2 horses because they're going to have the first chance. But really, I do like Baja Sur as my top selection there, the 6. You look at the last 2 races for Baja Sur, they've both been against Better Trip Nick. You had the El Dorado Shooter back in November. That was the end of the campaign for Baja Sur. It was the beginning of the campaign for Better Trip Nick. Baja Sur was 4 better that day. Then to come back to start the campaign this time, Baja Sur runs into Better Trip Nick, and Better Trip Nick gets the nod, winning by 3/4 of a length. And really, I think it could come down to these 2 horses in the stretch, or Landeskog could be in there as well. I think it's pretty simple for me, 4, 6, 9 to close out my $18 ticket with all my caveats. As it stands right now, it's 3 by 4 by 1 by 3. If the 13 does not draw in the 11th, I will post updates on Twitter, but we will be going 2-4 in leg 3, race 11. So we'll move from an $18 ticket to a $36 ticket. So a rare chance where I may have a bigger ticket than Andrew Champagne, who will roll with his $32 ticket.
And an even rarer instance in that if the 13 scratches, there will be many ways in which we can both hit. That's not something that happens often if you haven't watched this show a lot. And if you haven't watched this show a lot and you like what we do, go on ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our weekly updates. Next week's show, going to be a really good one. And that's as good a segue as any into talking about our second annual Kentucky Derby preview show. If you want to see what we did last year, by all means, go back and do that. We had a lot of fun. We had Joe Nevels come in, and we hit up a number of our friends in the game. People you know, people you trust, to tell us their Derby stories and offer their Derby selections. We wound up having a blast. It's one of the best shows I think we've ever done, and we're bringing back that format next week. It's going to be a blast. We really hope you tag along, and you know what? If you like something, if you want to send something in, tag both of us on Twitter. We're both very easy to find. At Andrew Champagne for me, at Horse Tickets for JD. This show is a heck of a lot more fun when it's interactive and when we're communicating with the people that are consuming our content, because when we came up with this show a little bit more than a year ago, it's what we wanted. We wanted to give people something fun during a pretty tough time. Now, hopefully the worst of those times are behind us, but the Kentucky Derby back on the first Saturday in May, and as such, our Kentucky Derby preview show will be live a couple days before the Run for the Roses. JD, I'm pretty pumped.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll dig out and find some winners, and maybe they're going to be undercard winners. You never know with us. We'll see how we're taping this on Thursday night. We'll see how EQ looks, final work coming up Friday morning for Essential Quality, bright and early, I think running 5:30 a.m. Eastern time. So if we just prolong the show a little bit, we can probably get a live work at the end of it, Andrew. No, I'm kidding, of course. But
yeah, I'm going to be way too tired. I had an all-day event at the day job today, and I'm going to sleep like a baby this evening, just throwing that out there. But looking forward to seeing that first thing in the morning. Going to be a lot of really cool works coming up tomorrow and on Saturday. So you're going to want to stay tuned to Horse Racing Twitter. Of course, don't forget, those bath shots go over really, really well on Twitter. Just throwing that out there. We never see bath shots at all, ever. So by all means, fire away. Time now for our final thoughts segment. And I'm just going to be brief here. I make this statement every year. I always stand by it. The Thursday before the Kentucky Derby is the Thursday before the Kentucky Derby. It is not Thurby. Thurby is not a word. If you say it, you sound very, very stupid. And I'm kicking myself for having to say this as part of my final thought. Just don't do it. It's cartoonish. It's lousy. Horse racing, be better. Now, for our final thoughts here, we're going to end the show with a rant from the one and only JD Fox. Now, JD, where do you live?
Arizona.
Okay. If you followed the Arizona racing situation at all whatsoever, you know that, to be incredibly kind, much of the situation is mind-numbingly stupid. With that preface, I yield the floor to my co-host. Take it away.
Because of its ridiculousness, I didn't live tweet the commission meeting this week. I couldn't. It was 4.5 hours long of real time. Now, this includes time when they go into executive session. So when they posted the recording, a little over 2.5 hours of public comment, I decided to tweet listening back to the playback, which is helpful because you can pause, you can get direct quotes and everything. And I'm just going to explain to you guys how messed up the state of Arizona is in relation to racing. These are all things that happened at the commission meeting. Okay, we start. We have a brand new commissioner that no one's ever heard of, that has not been publicly released via press release or anything. Later on in the session, we find that one of the commissioners was fired was kicked off the commission via email on Friday, and yet they automatically, magically had a fourth commissioner ready to go on Monday. Mind you, this commission is built to be 5 people, yet they choose to have 4. And then when things got tough in this week, one of the commissioners just magically disappeared. So they had 3 commissioners, which is quorum, so they could talk about things. But here's some things that happened with Greg Stiles. Awesome guy, did a lot of great work for the commission, retiring suddenly. Didn't seem to be prepared for track safety reports. By what we've heard, Turf Paradise now with either 14 or 15 equine casualties in the last 3 weeks, and they did not have a report on the number there. They did not have an official report on the track condition there, and that's been concerning. One of the concerns that we saw take place today at Turf Paradise, and I still don't have a reasoning why, they were off the turf today. It's Arizona. Weather's fine. We did learn in the commission meeting from a trainer that spoke on the record that they've been mowing the turf course with a push lawnmower.
What? Mind you, this is the first I'm hearing about a lot of this. All JD told me was that he was going to rant. A push lawnmower?
Mm-hmm.
A push lawnmower.
And that wasn't the craziest part of the meeting.
I don't know. All I can envision is the kid mowing the lawn and getting yelled at by Donald Trump near the White House. That's the only thing I've got in my head. And I can imagine just somebody doing that at a racetrack. And you're telling me it gets worse?
So, Turf Paradise and Arizona Downs both have to get their signals improved. They both have ADW networks. So really, that's usually a formality, and everything gets approved as needed. Turf Paradise had been using a contract with CDI that was established in 2014 to approve the signals for meets. CDI distributes Oaklawn and Fairgrounds as well. So both of this contract dating back to 2014 was good enough a couple months to go to get both of those signals approved. But it wasn't good enough to get the Churchill signal this year approved. So without a one-page document basically changing and updating the racing dates for Churchill Downs this year, Turf Paradise will not have access to the Kentucky Derby. And that means the ADW network. I meant to say OTB earlier when I said ADW. I apologize for confusing people. Gotcha. Both tracks have an OTB system, but Turf Paradise has all of the ADW deals for the state. If you're wagering ADW, it's what Turf Paradise brings to the table and not what Arizona Downs does. Now, in states like this, one of the things you have to realize is the tracks themselves don't go and talk and make these contracts. They use third parties for that. In the case of Arizona Downs, NYRA does all of their contracts with various tracks around the country. So you will see some differences for Arizona Downs versus Turf Paradise in terms of Arizona Downs doesn't get as much of the Canadian signals as Turf Paradise does. The only difference in the tracks this time was Hastings. Arizona Downs did not apply to show Hastings races, but Turf Paradise did. But Turf Paradise uses Monarch to negotiate their contracts, which is ironic considering we're now in about to start month 15 of not being able to bet on Monarch tracks. And Monarch's vice president and president have said, hey, that's a valid contract. And other states are using that. And hey, that was good enough for Fairgrounds and Oaklawn Park approval this year. Why isn't it good enough for the Derby? So we're sitting here, a little over a week out from the Derby. And the only place I know in the state where you can wager on the Derby is a Arizona Downs OTB, which there are 4 of them in the Phoenix area and I think 3 outside of the Phoenix area, or going on track to Arizona Downs. That's crazy. Now, again, remind you, we're not going to get the whole Triple Crown because Pimlico is a Monarch signal. So Pimlico taking over the dates for Laurel this week no action here in Arizona. And then there's more weird things. And this one I don't get. And this happens all the time in Arizona. Lone Star Park, opening night tonight. TVG offering wagering on Lone Star Park. Twin Spires Express Bet, not for Arizona residents. Why? Who knows? But really, this is a state that makes horse players go crazy. And now that the state has passed legislation to allow sports betting, you would think, okay, maybe they would like the sports betting to occur at racetracks. That seems like a positive thing that's happening throughout the country. All of the pro sports franchises got licenses approved for them based on the law. They can apply for them at their venues. The TPC Scottsdale, the big course here that hosts the Waste Management Open, they're going to have a gaming license for sports betting. You know who is explicitly not allowed to, according to the law, to apply for one of those licenses to have sports betting on site?
I've got an inkling, but tell us.
A racetrack. Why?
Just why? And also my head kind of hurts now. I kind of headbutted my closet door really hard. So
yeah. So
anybody,
it is very frustrating to live in a state where currently, now I will say this will change based on how I'm reading the ruling. And I showed Andrew exactly the thing. But if you want to go and look at what Governor Ducey signed into law, and you pull the exact portion of it, and I might have actually closed it. I closed it. I was like, I'm done with this document. I was going to get you the exact. Oh, okay. Here we go. It is House Bill 2772 that you can find on azleg.gov. So AZ legislature, but just the first three letters, which is leg.gov. And if you go all the way down to page 37, event wagering authorized. Section B, this is the best news I can give you if you're an Arizona racing fan. Notwithstanding Section 5.112, wagers on racing meetings or simulcasted races may be made, offered, or received through the means that other wagers allowed by this chapter are made, offered, or received unless otherwise prohibited by federal law. That sounds like a whole bunch of legalese.
Yeah.
It means you don't have to actually dial and talk or dial and punch in a bunch of stuff. We'll finally have some app wagering and some online wagering. So for all the things that are going wrong, we have one thing that goes right, but I can't keep making these trade-offs if I'm going to continue to be a horse player in the state of Arizona. Something has to give. Something has to give. Oh, by the way, something has to give.
Yeah. And that entire situation, I mean, you just named about 10 things that are insane, all in a row, all happening at the same time. Here's hoping the people in charge listen and get their act together, because a lot of passionate horse players in the state of Arizona, a lot of people that we both call friends in the state of Arizona that love this game, want to see this game succeed. A lot of horse people in Arizona that are at the mercy of people in government that probably wouldn't know the front end of a horse from the back, to be blunt. So that's where we're at right now. And my heart breaks for you, JD, for a lot of people in Arizona that are in a lousy situation. Here's hoping that situation clears up and gets better in the not too distant future. So it's a shame we've got to end on sort of a somber note, but we wanted to raise awareness of that because there's a lot going on. Most of it sucks. And that's where we're at. I wish, I could provide some sort of consolation. And I know, JD, you wound up doing that at least a little bit. I got to tell you, your phone probably appreciates that, because knowing how much you hammer those keys to get in a pick 4, you probably go through a bunch of phones over the past couple of years.
I mean, resistive touch interfaces are very rugged, but
go along with it. Go with it. I'm trying to feed you. This is your co-host trying to give you an assist, and you drop the ball. You drop the ball, you turned it over. They're on a fast break, and I'm not even running back.
Go Mets.
Explains a lot. For JD Fox, I'm Andrew Champagne. Join us next week when we dive in to Kentucky Derby Day at Churchill Downs. Be safe. Have fun betting the races this weekend. If you can go to track safely, go to track safely. Don't be stupid. And what else, JD?
Stay off the beaches.
Good luck, everybody.